dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
It's a one-of-a-kind wine fundraiser. Guahan Sustainable Culture presents Wine in the Garden. The Hamamoto Gardens help support food sovereignty, security, and sustainability while sipping wines from around the world, surrounded by 50-some acres of beautiful farm and garden. Tickets are $75 each. Proceeds support education and outreach on how important, easy, and fun sustainable practices can be. Wine in the Garden is on Saturday evening, October 26, starting at 5. For more details, go to our website, gusustainable.org, or call 687-6491.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good afternoon and welcome to Tall Tales for Friday, October 25th. I'm Daryl Taggarty. I was not here yesterday. Bob will be back before Thanksgiving. I'm back today. And for those of you who might have been thinking, ooh, maybe Bob's back. No, not till he gets back. But we are together once again, and the sun is shining, and you're tuned in, or you're watching us on Facebook Live or on YouTube. And so, however you're watching us, thank you very much for tuning in, and let's see just what might be happening. I got 2 days worth of stuff to talk about, and maybe I'll take them and kind of weave them together, have some fun with it this afternoon. Lots of stuff going on. Bob sent me an article on Second Amendment, so let's get to that because we don't have many of them these days. An article that came from Harvard Law Review. The Supreme Court is poised to blow a giant hole in gun control. Here's how the liberal justices can intervene. Didn't you hear that alarm go off? Let's see if it's. I'm not sure why he sent this to me by the title, but let's see what let's not judge the book by its cover. But it is Harvard Law Review. Lost in the shuffle of a busy October at the Supreme Court, one filled with high-profile developments concerning the right to abortion and the treatment of LGBT workers, was a single ominous sentence buried away on page 11 of the court's first orders list of the term. The respondent's suggestion of mootness is denied. Quote, the respondent's suggestion of mootness is denied. Despite its opacity, this single sentence is the clearest signal yet of the impending doom for critical gun control laws currently in force in 8 states and Washington, D.C. To back up a bit, the case in question is New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus City of New York. Remember, we were talking about this a while back. It involves a Second Amendment challenge brought by gun rights activists against specific restrictions that New York City, the respondent in the case, placed on their ability to travel with the firearms. The court granted certiorari. I don't speak Latin, although my younger son's taken it down at Mount Carmel. The court granted cert in January, which was itself a bad sign for gun control proponents. The city's restrictions were upheld in the lower courts. And no other federal court has reached a conflicting conclusion, leaving the court little reason to take the case other than to reverse the decision below. But the court tipped its hand still further when it denied the city's request to dismiss the case as moot in light of intervening city and state laws. both of which granted the challengers the exact relief they requested in their complaint. So it was legislated. The solution that the citizens were seeking was legislated. If any of the conservative justices were at all interested in avoiding this highly charged dispute, by far the easiest course would have been to accept the city's suggestion of mootness, given that the challengers had already gotten all they had asked for. Their refusal to do so is a strong signal that the conservative majority is poised to issue a blockbuster ruling that will expand the right to carry guns outside the home. Such a ruling would add insult to injury for countless communities that have been ravaged by gun violence, a number that is growing rapidly due to the striking increase in mass shootings across the nation. I think every time someone's shot, it's an incident. But all is not lost. The liberal justices in the minority have a last-ditch strategy that would sacrifice the specific gun restriction at issue in this case, yet save a number of far more critical gun control measures around the country. To see how, it's important to start by recognizing just how narrowly the challengers framed their lawsuit, at least initially. The suit challenges a New York City regulation requiring owners of city-conferred premises licenses to keep their guns inside their homes at all times, with two exceptions: to go hunting at an authorized area in New York City, or to train at one of 7 shooting ranges in the city. Without a premises license, or a far more difficult to obtain carry license, which requires a significant demonstration of an applicant's individualized need, city residents are not allowed to keep guns in their homes at all. 3 individuals and the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association sued, asking for 2 additional yet modest exceptions to the general restriction on travel by premises license holders: the ability to bring guns to shooting ranges and second homes outside the city. Critically, the plaintiffs did not challenge New York State's carry license regime, which is the more significant law that prohibits most city residents, i.e. those that cannot show particularized good cause, from carrying concealed firearms in public. But the challengers now make clear, in their brief before the court, that they are no longer interested in just the 2 modest travel freedoms for premises license holders. Instead, the challengers want the court to issue a sweeping ruling that, quote, the Second Amendment protects a right to carry arms outside the home, period. Such a right, the challengers argue, would include traveling to shooting ranges and second homes, but would also call into doubt the crucial limits New York places on who may obtain a general carry license, not to mention similar limits in place in 7 additional states and Washington, D.C. It is these general limits on public carry, in other words, that the challengers really wish to invalidate in the hopes of creating a nationwide right to carry firearms in public. But it is also the public carry limits that the city, and gun control proponents more generally, should be especially interested in defending. Research shows that restrictive public carry licensing regimes are associated with a 13 to 15% aggregate reduction in violent crime. Whether premises license holders may bring their guns to second homes and shooting ranges outside the city seems a minor issue by comparison. Recognizing these high stakes, New York City and state officials earlier this year wisely granted the challengers the narrow relief they requested. Both the city and state enacted new laws affording premises license holders the right to bring their firearms to out-of-city shooting ranges and to second homes. Under usual principles of constitutional law, these concessions would have mooted the case, leaving no need for an opinion on the broader contours of the Second Amendment right to bear arms. And so, in July, New York officials asked the court to dismiss the case. That is the request that the court denied in its October 7 orders list. That decision, in addition to the likely political dispositions of the 5 justices in the conservative majority, puts the 4 more liberal members of the court in a difficult spot. One doesn't need a fancy law degree to know that, given the conservative colleagues' refusal to duck the issue on mootness grounds, there are likely 5 votes to invalidate the city's gun restriction on the merits. But how the court does so and how the city loses can make a world of difference. It turns out the Second Amendment argument is not the only constitutional challenge in this case. For understandable reasons, most observers have focused on that argument, since it is that constitutional provision that can trigger the greatest upheaval in local and state efforts to regulate firearms. But there is another constitutional challenge worthy of our interest, a challenge based on the Dormant Commerce Clause. Dormant Commerce Clause. Under longstanding precedent, the Dormant Commerce Clause doctrine forbids states and cities to discriminate against interstate commerce. To illustrate this rule and its sensibility, suppose that New Jersey, in an effort to prop up its restaurant industry, passed a law forbidding its residents to eat at New York City restaurants. One might imagine New York getting angry and retaliating, passing a similar law prohibiting its own residents from eating in New Jersey. New Jersey might then escalate, forbidding all commercial interactions between its residents and New York. Before long, states around the country might be engaged in destructive tit-for-tat trade wars. Thankfully, Dormant Commerce Clause doctrine stops this from happening. Under it, Congress alone, not the states, has the power to regulate interstate commerce. Given this rule, the travel restrictions imposed by New York City's premises license seems constitutionally dubious, for reasons having nothing to do with the Second Amendment. Just as New Jersey can't forbid its residents to eat at New York City restaurants, New York City can't forbid its residents to bring their guns to New Jersey shooting ranges. Sure, the former market is obviously larger than the latter, but market size is immaterial. Indeed, one of the court's most cited Dormant Commerce Clause cases has to do with the Arizona cantaloupe market. Boy, it's a lot to read. What matters is that states cannot discriminate against commerce in other states, which is quite arguably what the city's premises license does vis-a-vis out-of-state shooting ranges. A similar argument could be made about the city's former restriction on traveling with a gun to a second home. It is facially discriminatory against the out-of-state home purchase and rental markets. Suppose the 4 liberal justices expressed their willingness to join an opinion striking down New York City's premises license restrictions on this Dormant Commerce Clause ground. Excuse me. For his part, Chief Justice Roberts might be especially interested in crafting a majority opinion on this rationale, since it would produce a unanimous ruling in favor of the challengers, at least 5 votes based on the Commerce Clause, with perhaps a concurring opinion based on the Second Amendment. Indeed, it is possible that Justices Alito and Kavanaugh might join the Dormant Commerce Clause majority as well, viewing that as a worthwhile compromise ruling in favor of gun owners that does not inject the court into the heated, broader, nationwide argument over the Second Amendment and public carry limits. Justices Thomas and Gorsuch have expressed more doubt about the Dormant Commerce Clause generally. Even with a concurring opinion on the Second Amendment ground, a unanimous decision in favor of gun owners would convey the Chief's famous admonition that, quote, "We do not have Obama judges or Trump judges." Certainly more than a polarizing Second Amendment decision that breaks down along predictable partisan lines. And for the liberals, the crucial result would be to make no new law on the Second Amendment. That, in turn, would allow the vital general limits on public carry in New York, D.C., and elsewhere, the kind of sensible gun restrictions that have saved countless lives over the years, to survive another day. And that is what our very own Bob Klitzkie has wanted you to hear today about the Second Amendment and how what's going on in the world today touches on your Second Amendment rights. And so I want to thank Bob for sending this up, and thank you very much for listening to that rather long and, to me, interesting peek into the strategy and of the Supreme Court, of which we've been talking about in the local news over the last several days. So, thank you very much for that. And now, let's go to Zami Ikatni. With my apologies to those watching on Facebook, where I just leaned really far into the screen. and real close to the camera there, rather, into your screen. I forgot to mention, you're certainly welcome to call here at 888-8255 if you think that I am reading too fast, or you got something else going on your mind today, or you kind of want to summarize what's gone on in the number of stories that have happened just in the last couple of days from Wednesday night till this afternoon. Again, 888-8255 is the number. PDN sees fit to reprint an editorial from USA Today, A Path to the Truth, White House Impeachment Stonewall Cracks. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, if you've noticed, I am trying to stay away from national news, especially on some of the things that have been reported a lot. I don't think it's like reported ad nauseum, but it is not something I really want to get into. Just don't feel like it. Don't need to. We'll talk about it at some point. Yes, after that. First things first.
Sorry, I'm late. Tomorrow time.
Oh, tomorrow time, but better late than never.
Tomorrow time, 4:20.
And we got somebody on the line who wishes to jump right in here, and maybe I don't know, maybe they saw something on the screen and they want to tell me about it. It's Francis. You're early this afternoon. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Well, we got home early.
You got your radio on. Got it turned down. Got echo.
Yeah. How you doing, man? That cold getting better?
Oh, actually, it wasn't a cold. There was some confusion about who was going to show up at my dad's house to watch him while I zinged down here to be with y'all yesterday. And so I wasn't going to leave my dad alone, and it's like just too much of a production number to bring him down with me. I've done it once, but it wasn't easy. So I just relaxed and enjoyed the afternoon at home with him. And so
all right, sounds good, brother.
Yeah, so everything's good in the world. But I wish I was here. You know, I mean, all told, I really enjoy my afternoons here with you guys. So, but thank you very much. What's on your mind today? You got a...
Well, we on the Andrea talk show, we kind of got into it. Tom was also called in, you know.
Mm-hmm. What was the? Because I missed what you guys were saying over there. But what?
Well, I think Andrea started on the Fourth Amendment, if I'm not mistaken, that security from unreasonable search and seizure, the right of people to be secure in their person, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure. And Andrea was kind of like doing her research, you know, where there was controversy on this amendment. Andrea wasn't quite in agreement with some of the violations, you know, under the Fourth Amendment.
Who's violating it?
Well, the little information that I have is that, you know, when I guess, to me, in my own opinion,
Wait,
the Fourth
facts
Amendment
first.
has all this probable cause, you know. And
Right.
I'm no damn lawyer, you know, but now that we're talking about it, I guess we're all going to be exposed to it. You know, we're all trying to get some information and some clarification.
Well, you know, we've been watching Law and Order for how many years? 25 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been there, and I was in court today at 1:30.
Right.
Yeah, I was up all night getting ready for that. But you know, as I was telling one of my friends on the way out of the court, it's okay. You don't have to come bail me out. She exercised her judicial power and discretion and let me walk out the door without anything, without missing any body parts. So, I thank her for that, and not like I was trying to piss her off, but it just whenever you go to court, it's like the legislature being in session. You better watch out. You better not cry.
You're in
You
my
better not pout. I'm telling you why. And it ain't Santa Claus.
Anyway, thank God, man, because I don't think I want you to miss this beautiful upcoming weekend because there's so many activities coming up. Anyway, Tom, you're Tom. A little confused about my disagreement sometimes, and I tend to agree and disagree with things because I read, I read and then things come to mind where I believe in all this right due process of the law, and then there's so many cases that, as you noticed, that on the Sixth Amendment, where in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by impartial jury. Mm-hmm. So I think what's happening is ascertained by law, I guess, to be blah blah blah, informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, and to be confronted with witnesses for and against them, and be represented by counsel.
Well, what's the topic? Who's getting who's being searched unreasonably?
Well,
or
I think Andrea was doing her research and in comparing, cross-referencing, or comparing with the notes with many of the court cases that's happening in the mainland, and I guess she got some really some information that she thought was so much a violation, of the Fourth Amendment. But you know what, Darrow? Just my opinion, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please.
Here in Guam, we especially the Fourth Amendment. I noticed a lot of the amendments of the Constitution is applied here, especially that so many of them. I don't know if it's the first 15 or what. But I think the 15 is I don't think we want to pass the 15 or the 14 because then we be in a world crap, So anyway, my point is Dr. McNitch, and I heard something, and I know they picked it up and they heard us. Strongly felt about creating a military academy here for those who are already in the system, and possibly those who are beyond control students at DYA, and petition students from the high school, that need more than parental guidance and discipline. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I totally agree with Ron, and Dr. Gutters was probably also in agreement with this, and I hope, man, that one day maybe we can start something here, because we have everything around us. We have National Guard, we have judicial system and all that. We have the executive and legislative. I don't know about legislative, but Patty said that we probably going to need a lot of money for this. But then again,
but why
not?
I thought that the as we mentioned the other day, we used to have one of the schools within DOE was set aside to provide this particular service, and it's a location for if you're removed for discipline reasons from a regular classroom, you can continue to attend school, but in a setting where they are particularly interested in making sure that you progress academically, despite having this behavioral incident, so that it's not a permanent paint on the student, on the minor. And then what they did was they stopped that, and they turned the school over to become a place for remedial work for students who maybe they dropped out because they're pregnant. Only the girls, not the guys. But for whatever reason they dropped out, and then they wanted to get their credits back. Instead of tying it in together with GCC, remember GCC used to have a high school program, or maybe it still has a high school program, but they're not working on this on an interagency basis. I know GCC has programs that they're already running successfully and with a great deal of purpose. But when we talk about DOE by itself, and we don't talk about GCC and what it has already been doing, or what DOE itself has been doing, then we're missing part of the picture.
I guess.
And DYA. You know, we need to be not holistic. You know, I don't want to. You don't have to grab everyone and bring them in the room, but everyone who is addressing this aspect of continuing education among high schoolers in order to produce productive citizens, not to turn our backs on people and produce criminals, but give them like a rat. You know, rat is really, really smart. But if you corner a rat, you're not supposed to corner a rat. You're supposed to give the rat a place to go. And so you make the rat go the direction you want it to go. And as adults, we have to be smarter. We have to be like the one don't corner the rat. Don't give the rat nowhere to go, because he's going to come right up and bite you. So you give the rat the direction. You give the rat the incentive to go in a particular direction. And that's what they're supposed to be doing. Because these are minors. These are citizens. These are residents for the next 50 years, so you better be thinking straight and not creating more problems. And that's why we have these really smart guys and gals in the government, on the government payroll. So they just got to put their heads together. And that's why we have a governor, because the governor is going to say, hey, you, and over here, you, and over here, you. Stay back after the cabinet meeting, and let's talk about this and get this hammered out. Instead of letting this be talked about in the media like we're not doing anything. You know what I mean?
You're right. It does. It has to materialize, man. It has to be something's has to work out. You know, because now that we're talking about it, I just hope it becomes a reality, and somebody takes into consideration, you know, that we do care. The only thing I have, the last, you know, Darryl, in the Bureau of Prison, you have your camps, and you have your FCIs, your Federal Correction institutions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in that place, there are professionals, lawyers, cops, firemen, doctors, from all walks of life, you know, who have broken the law and have had to pay back Uncle Sam and serve time and even fines, you know.
Are you suggesting we have some? You have some nominees? Let's hope not. You know, I mean, this is Friday. This is Friday, but it's okay. Go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your point.
I still believe, you know, Darryl, are just guilty.
Guilty?
You plead guilty, man, and sometimes even the federal government or Bureau of Prison takes this into consideration, you know, and you just pay your fines and do your time and get out. You have an accomplished document, you know, that you have completed your.
Yeah, you've paid your debt to society.
You was a good boy, and now you're a better man, and is able to return back into your past job, or you know, other means of you know, engaging in the workforce or in commerce or what have you. Because a lot of people I know that out of the 3 or 4 million right now that are incarcerated, many of them are professionals. I know people that are now working for the U.S. Mint.
U.S. who?
Out of the penitentiary, hackers that all work for the feds, for the USA, and they help. They contribute all their pros and, you know, their professional services to the federal government. You know, tackling all this what do you call that? Cyber something.
Are you reminding us that in some places in the United States, prisoners, those who have been committed to incarceration by the by the criminal justice system, are looked upon as resources for public purposes? How novel! I mean, we've been doing this. We've been using the prison labor to pick up trash.
There you go. We have factories in there.
Prison farm.
Forms for the military, for the armed forces. There's factories in there that make uniforms for the Coast Guard. Very productive, and like you said, many of them, well, not in the immigration detention center, but majority of them are U.S. citizens.
We could have Russian translators.
Oh yeah, I've met a lot of those German. What do you call those guys? Those spies and all that. I have some very good friends that are some of the best lawyers, national and internationally.
Mm-hmm.
That have broken federal laws, and they were happy to. They just pled guilty, and we'll do our time, and we'll pay our fines.
Well, you get a longer sentence if you keep fighting it. Hi, Francis.
Man, no. You don't want to do that because
no.
You're going to waste your time, and it might just.
You might be sewing uniforms instead of picking flowers.
Here you go, brother. Hey, I hope you get better. I hope you're good man taking care of that, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm not
wonderful weekend.
I'm not afflicted by a cold. It's an allergy, but yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the weekend, and it's always nice to hear your voice. And we'll bring up.
Taking my call, man. Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
I appreciate whenever you have something to say, Francis. Thank you very much for calling. Have a good weekend. And that was our Francis. Let's take a break here. It's 4:37, and it's time to take a break, and we'll come right back with more Tall Tales.
Konnichiwa! We'll be celebrating the 40th Japan Autumn Festival on Saturday, November 16th from 2 until 9 at the Governor Joseph Flores Beach Park. That's Ipao Beach Park. Parking will be available across Oka Payless with free shuttle service every 15 minutes starting at 1:30. Advance tickets available now at the Japan Club of Guam office located on the first floor of Pia Marine during business hours. The Japan Autumn Festival at Ipao Beach Park, November 16th from 2 to 9. Come join us. For information, call 646-8066. This message made possible by Choice Broadcasting.
Hulu is all your TV in one place, plus more. Watch thousands of hit shows, movies, and award-winning Hulu originals for only $5.99 per month. It's TV without the cable contract and the freedom of on-demand streaming. Get current network shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, and binge watch every season of your favorite cable shows. Premium Hulu viewing is brought to you by Proline Automotive and AB Sports, Guam's store for Nike. To advertise on Hulu, call Choice Digital at 989-0042.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Yeah. Just taking a look at the comments on Facebook Live before we get back to Zami Ikatni, because it might be something that's said in here might be touching on that. Sherry Uriarte says, half a day. Question for you, Daryl. When the police write tickets, does all the money go to the court system? Does GPD get any? And I will tell you that indeed they have decided that the proceeds from enforcing the law will go towards funding the court, and they can use this money for reasons that are it's like a non-appropriated fund, and so they can develop the court in directions that the court itself decides it needs to go, but it hasn't gone to the legislature to request a specific appropriation, but it has to go to something that improves its productivity. It doesn't go to salaries or positions or whatnot. And one of the reasons they do this, it's important, is that they don't provide to GPD or any police department an incentive, a financial, a monetary incentive to go out and ticket citizens. in order to boost the budget of the police department. That's why. That the police should be paid for and not purchased. And so that's why. And in places where the police departments are funded from the tickets they write, that's where you get those the police sitting behind the billboard waiting for someone going 1 mile over the speed limit. And then they drag you straight into the magistrate. They would be the parking lot at the northern center wouldn't be big enough, because everyone would be directed there, and all the police would be in there to get the $100 fine. They wouldn't be on the street anymore. They'd be processing for money and not available to do patrol. And that's why it perverts the reason that the police are out there, and it perverts their ability to prioritize where they should be at any given time to the most useful use of their time, if they have to be chasing dollars instead of doing their regular job. And that's why they don't tie fines and revenues from fines to the police department. It's worked well. And it is really up to the legislature to appropriate enough money. We pay enough taxes. The legislature is supposed to appropriate enough money. It's a very simple concept. And then the legislature is supposed to oversee how that money is spent. Because you've seen in past years where they'll leave positions vacant so they can use the money for the vacant positions for overtime. And the police burn out. They love the money, and then they just don't want to do policing anymore and leave. Or go, okay, I've had my money, I paid off my house, now I'm going to go work at the port. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And not that I'm thinking of anyone in particular. I don't know if there's really an example like that, maybe the airport. But you see what I mean? It's kind of, you don't want to have financial incentives for prioritizing public safety priorities. Thank you for the question. And then Jose Martinez says, now we truly know why Governor Leon Guerrero sent Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Chief of Staff Tony Babauta to the lobby in D.C. And he cites this, the lead story today, House Ethics Committee launches investigation into St. Nicholas's alleged relations with staffer. Well, unless they were carrying the papers over, or unless they were going in to set a torpedo. But I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. It's really fun to talk about. Not about Josh and Tony going to D.C. and, having a good time, palling with the Democrats in the House of Representatives and shoving the major torpedo, up Mike St. Nicholas. But, it's something else. It's just fun. So stay tuned. And then I see Pam is with us today. And then let's see. Responding to Sherry. Zabit Camacho Court. I don't understand. But anyway, Sherry says, but no, they just watch people run red lights. Well, they should be ticketing. Yeah, they should be ticketing. And now that's something that we need to address. Perhaps the ticketing process needs to be streamlined in a way that doesn't reduce your rights, doesn't diminish your rights, and doesn't suck up lots of admin time for the policeman. You see, the police has to be the witness and go into court, has to file the reports so that they can be, to back up the ticket and all that. And that takes time. But if you can streamline the process, especially with technology, like with cameras at the intersections, and bypass, I know that Ken has a different opinion about this, but if you can bypass the financial incentive and put the cameras in a way where we purchase and put in the cameras and put in a procedure where it's just a black and white. This is the car going through the intersection, there's the light, and here's a picture of the driver, and here's a picture of the license plate, and then just refer it, and have the ticket be administratively handled by someone who sits at a desk anyway, not a person driving a car, carrying a gun, on patrol in real time. Alleviate the beat patrolman from that chore and enforce the law and get, we have to be smarter, not work harder, just work smarter. And we can do it with technology. It's getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. Let's see. Ishmael Velez says propaganda. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but it might be what I'm saying. It might be, it might be what someone else is saying, but I don't know. Let me see. No aircon outside the patrol car. Oh. The thing is that if a policeman gives 10 tickets for running the red light, his whole shift is going to be dedicated to those 10 tickets. And I would rather have that patrolman moving through and clearing up accidents or being visible out on the other parts of the road than to be sitting at an intersection waiting for people to run red lights and then tying up a lane. And yes, it's good for visibility to do that, and they should be doing it, but it should not become a priority. And the Guam Police Department needs to work with the courts to take to the legislature a way to improve our laws in order to allow efficiencies, true efficiencies, enforce the law, and achieve the intended result of reducing the numbers of people going through red lights. And that's an easy one because it's just the same spot every time. So let's see. The patrolman will be preventing accidents, and Ishmael says this. The patrolman will be preventing accidents. You're right, but also we're all responsible for preventing our own accidents. Don't go through. And accidents are if they're caused by people running red lights, well then, justice has been served. And of course they're going to, the insurance and all that, and smashing up a car and whatnot. It's like correcting behavior. But we should be trying to tamp down on this. I see it all the time, and it's easy to address. And so I didn't read A Path to the Truth from USA Today, but and then yesterday's editorial was How Dems Can Win 2020. That was also a USA Today, and I'm not going to read that. That was from yesterday. Today, early COLA checks, good for Gov Guam retirees. Now is a good time to drop tax increase. And that's from the Guam Daily Post editorial. You want to take a look at this for a few minutes, and let's consider what's going on here. Early COLA checks, good for Gov Guam retirees. That's Guam Daily Post editorial today. Governor Lulian Guerrero's administration has provided to the Government of Guam Retirement Fund the money for the mandated cost of living allowance for nearly 8,000 Gov Guam retirees, many of them on fixed incomes. I'm one of them, except for the money I earn here. For most retirees, this annual assistance provides a financial lift heading into the holiday season for all retirees, except those who, The governor's office on Thursday announced that the COLA checks are being released this Friday. Yee-hee! That's nearly a week early from the deadline set in law for the COLA checks to be released by November 1 of each year, the administration stated. Last year, Gov Guam, that's today, Gov Guam also issued retirees COLA checks during the last Friday of October. Each of the retirees will get a check for $2,000. Hey. In the case of a deceased retiree, a qualified survivor will receive the check. Taxpayers are forking out $14 million for the COLA checks for the executive branch retirees. An additional amount of nearly $2 million will be paid out of the budgets of autonomous agencies. Quote, we can meet obligations in advance of deadlines because of strong cash management, said the governor in a press release. Our retirees are a priority, and they always will be. Oh. Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio added, COLA recipients are people who have worked for years in service to the people of Guam. This is about helping people who worked a lifetime to meet the needs of daily living, like Christmas. It's a good thing that GovGuam retirees are receiving their COLA checks, and we're glad that they can get it a bit ahead of schedule. And now that the administration has acknowledged that COLA checks for retirees are being issued as a result of their strong cash management, we hope the administration can turn its attention toward helping private sector workers and retirees afford the cost of living too. This can be achieved by rolling back the increase in the gross receipts tax, which affects most essential goods and services. Now would be a good time to roll back the tax increase. We'll have an opinion on that on the other side. The opinion on the opinion on the other side of this break.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for the all-new Pit Smoked Brisket. How would you like it?
I'll take a man who knows what's what.
Y'all know what? The all-new Pit Smoked Brisket at Subway is smoked slower than a slug going up a down escalator, that's what. I'm talking tender, juicy brisket, naturally pit smoked for at least 13 hours. What's more, it's got layer after layer of smoky flavor. Smoked cheddar and barbecue sauce on delicious Italian bread. Subway, make it what y'all want, what not. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your fix every day with the Points NFL Pick'em contest. Get the latest updates as we check out the past week's performance and break down the upcoming action. Get your game on by calling the hotline at 888-TALK or sound off on Facebook Live at thepoint.gu. League members get a chance to win some awesome weekly prizes with a shot for your choice of a new GTA phone. The NFL Pick'em contest is brought to you by Current Guam with special thanks to GTA. Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Well, you know, I'm taking a look at this, and I'm it's funny. It's funny. I'm not going to ding the Guam Daily Post because it is because the errors are in the quotes, and I'm not going to ding them because of their logic. And they did make a small omission, and perhaps they could have gone a little bit, they could have driven the point deeper, put a bit more, a couple more hammer blows to the end of the nail to drive it in a bit further so it doesn't come out, and so it's not so polite. We're not tattooing here, we're trying to get the nail into the bone. So I would say that they probably, it's right. They're absolutely right. But they didn't say anything about how many of the retirees in the government of Guam system are making so much money that they're making it because they paid in. And it's coming back out. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve their retirement at that level. But the COLA is real important to those who retired a while back when salaries were lower and their retirement comes out at a level of $430 a month, something like that. Despite their years and years and years of work, the salary level was just not as high as it is now. And so the payout is not as high as someone who retires now after the last couple of Hay studies have increased the compensation for those same positions. And so there are people who retire out of, say, the University of Guam, and they're making a lot in retirement. They paid in a lot, they're making a lot. They don't need a COLA. And the ones, if anyone needs a COLA for the reason that the COLA is justified and a cost of living adjustment is justified at all, it's the ones at the very lower end. And so there really is no reason to pay out $14 million. There is a really good reason to save that money, part of that money, by revising the whole reason that you have a COLA at all and articulating it so that we don't have to pay out to people who are making, say, 1.5 times poverty rate, or 2 times the poverty rate, or 3 times the poverty rate. Don't need a COLA, especially when it's only a political payment, because it's flat across the board and it's done separately from the retirement fund. It has no relation to anything except it's time for Christmas shopping. You can buy your grandkids some presents, and it's a stimulus to the economy. And the editorial is absolutely right. It's a good time, but that means that the governor is going to have to send down is going to have to direct somebody in the administration to think about this and draft some legislation and send it down to the legislature, and they're all going to have to pass something that would be really, really unpopular for people who are contributing to their campaigns. So it won't happen. And in the meantime, we can look forward to $14 million getting forked out when it could have been like $6 million or $7 million. Easily. And nobody would mind paying it out. But $7 million of that is pure political payout to people who don't need it. There's no reason to have a cost of living adjustment. Didn't we just say that the cost of living on Guam didn't go up? It went up. It has gone up. But it's gone up because of inflation that's caused by changes in the amount of taxes and fees that the government's charging. Now it's not, but this $2,000 is not indexed to anything except a law that says we've decided that we're going to put this money out and we're going to take credit for it every year. It's pure politicking with yours and my tax money, and there's a good reason to put it anyway. For this, I think for taking on the subject, not for not going too far with it or far enough with it, I am going to thank the Guam Daily Post with the Blue Star. Right. Not to avoid the subject, or to disparage the Gov Guam workers. And let's see, what was the other one? Oh yeah, yesterday's editorial on how Mike St. is now the elected leader that for everyone. He needs this, especially, one day before the headlines, I just, before today's headlines. Now, do I need to read this? I wasn't here yesterday, but it would take me a long time to read this. But I am going to, without reading it, I'll read the last paragraph, and then that's going to be all I have to say about it. On this latest leadership challenge, it's clear who, between the governor and the delegate, serves all the people of Guam. And for this, I am going to award a Blue Star to the Guam Daily Post for yesterday's editorial. Even though I don't agree with it at all, I do respect the logic and the thinking, and because I can do that. I'm flexible enough. That's what I get for having a liberal arts education. It's 4:59 and time to listen to Fox News. Find out what's going on in the nation, out beyond our shores. And our halftime show, I'll be back in about 7 minutes, with more, another hour of today's Tall Tales.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
A DOJ review gets criminal investigation powers. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Fox News has confirmed the Justice Department's review of the origins of the Russia investigation is now a criminal inquiry.
This started as a broad probe. He didn't actually have a grand jury. He didn't have subpoenas, all the rest. Now he does. This is a formal criminal probe, we're told. And so there are going to be a lot of former Obama officials who are going to be under the microscope in terms of their behavior, the FISA warrants, and all the rest.
Fox's Ed Henry turning it into a criminal probe gives prosecutors the ability to issue subpoenas and impanel a grand jury. Meantime, the DOJ's Inspector General Michael Horowitz says he is finalizing his report on FISA abuses ahead of the 2016 presidential election. In a letter obtained by Fox News, he says the report will have limited redactions. Wildfires forced tens of thousands of people out of their homes in California. The Kincaid Fire, about 80 miles north of San Francisco, started Wednesday night amid strong winds.
Given the weather that's coming in the terrain, this entire fire area is truly of concern for us. We absolutely are up against the clock, not only with just the continually drying fuel moistures, but the winds that are predicted over the next couple of days are currently expected to be worse than what we had just the other night.
Sonoma Fire County Chief Mike Parks. And the fire is only 5% contained. The entire town of Geyserville had to evacuate. In the Los Angeles area, several fires are burning, including the Tick Fire, which is prompted about 50,000 people to evacuate.
We're going to have our firefighters out all night trying to do what they can to protect structures.
And that is Fire Chief Daryl Osby. America's listening to Fox News.
When you think about better water, think Kinetico softened water. Kinetico water conditioners work like no other, supplying a continuous flow of luxuriously soft water without disruption and without use of electricity. After all, better water flows from better thinking. Kinetico.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water. Call American Water Tech at 649-2301 or email info@americanwatertech.com. Konnichiwa! We'll be celebrating the 40th Japan Autumn Festival on Saturday, November 16th from 2 until 9 at the Governor Joseph Flores Beach Park. That's Ipao Beach Park. Parking will be available across Oka Payless with free shuttle service every 15 minutes starting at 1:30. Advance tickets available now at the Japan Club of Guam office located on the first floor of Pia Marine during business hours. The Japan Autumn Festival at Ipao Beach Park, November 16th from 2 to 9. Come join us. For information, call 646-8066. This message made possible by Choice Broadcasting.
The funeral for Congressman Elijah Cummings will be held today in Baltimore. Memorial services were yesterday on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers from both parties offered praise. And that first coming from Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer.
No matter your politics, if you knew Elijah, you went to him for guidance. I often did. I will miss those conversations dearly.
And North Carolina Republican Mark Meadows.
For me, I was privileged enough to be able to call him a dear friend. Some have classified it as an unexpected friendship. But for those of us that know Elijah, it's not unexpected or surprising.
Cummings died last week following some health issues. There are some changes coming to the Amex card.
The card will now be called the Green from Amex. And starting today, existing and new card holders can benefit from increased rewards, including more travel benefits and enhanced perks. But it comes with a higher annual fee, increasing to $150 from the current $95. The new
That is Fox's Hillary Barsky. A national poll shows that Senator Elizabeth Warren is leading among the 2020 Democratic hopefuls.
The lead for Senator Warren over former Vice President Joe Biden is now 7 points in the Quinnipiac University poll. Her 28% support tops Biden's 21%, 15% for Senator Bernie Sanders, and 10% for South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. No one else has more than 5% support. Despite Senator Warren's growing advantage, Quinnipiac still sees Biden as the candidate with the best chance of beating President Trump. Respondents also say Warren performed best during the most recent debate in Ohio, followed by Mayor Buttigieg. They said Biden was the least impressive. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And this is Fox News.
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, mom, dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
If you've ever struggled for breath, you know what a scary experience it is. Whether you have asthma, emphysema, COPD, lung cancer, or another respiratory illness, the right medical treatment makes all the difference. GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic has the latest technology and respiratory equipment, staffed by world-class pulmonologists. Make an appointment today with GRMC's Pulmonology Clinic and start breathing easier. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back before Thanksgiving, at which time we will all give thanks. In the meantime, I'll be with you for the rest of this hour, and we'll take a break for the weekend and then come back again next week with more Tall Tales. Bob has been encouraging me to do the card, and I need some practice at doing the card. And the card, of course, is a format which is different than the format I usually use. I've been developing, and so let's see how this works out. Okay, give me a moment here, and I'll set this up, and then we'll proceed. And in the card, the issues are framed in a way that it is A versus B. And I don't think like that. I didn't go to school to be an attorney. And so I don't think of issues in A versus B. I think of them as process. How do we get from point A to point B? Not who were the two opposing sides of an argument. And I've explained this to Bob, but it's okay. I want to try to, as a mental exercise, place myself in that position. I'm not, and believe me, please, so I don't get in any kind of trouble, I am not impersonating a lawyer, okay, by doing this. But I've been encouraged to do this. So we're going to get to that in a moment. But first, I'm going to take a look at now I understand. The person that's making a comment on Facebook Live is Zabik Camacho. The court should use these monies to implement red light cams. It is 2019. Now, so what Zabit's point is that the money that they get from the fines that the police are pulling in should be used for the red light cams. And you've seen over the years where the court has worked with drug education or drunk driving education courses, and having people who have been picked up for drunk driving take courses that are court ordered. You know, the court can compel you as part of the sentence to do something, and then they would use funds from the fines to obtain the resources, instructors and whatnot, to who can provide the service to the court and to the offenders. And so this is why I came back to Zabit with my comment during the break. The courts don't administer laws. They provide a venue for those charged to get a fair process. Right? That's what the courts are for. They don't make laws. They don't enforce laws. Making laws, legislature. Enforcing laws, administration. Executive branch. Executive direction. The legislature and governor and AG and GPD and DPW can put their heads together on how to improve law enforcement through use of technology. That's the change we voted for last November. Well, some of us did. This kind of coordination can be done. It was about 35 years ago, but fell into disuse, and it shows. You just sit down together. People who know how to get stuff done, but only one aspect of it. Oh yeah, I forgot to put in here. BIT. Maybe that's the BIT of Zabit Camacho. The Bureau of Information Technology. Sit down, hammer out or discuss certain approaches, and have the AG say, yeah, that's enforceable as long as you write it up this way. This will be streamlined. It won't, it will be a simple process, or a simpler process. And it won't be so expensive in terms of manpower. That way, you don't have to have, the evidence is there. And you have to write it up so that it becomes the evidence. You don't have to have the police officer standing in the court waiting for to testify personally against that the person who ran the red light and is going to get a $25 ticket. That's just we spend 10 times in salary and benefits, or more than 10 times in salary and benefits to prosecute each of those $25 tickets. And that's not a good use for the money. So I am taking a look at the card. Okay, here's one, and that is, this story about House Ethics Committee launches investigation into St. Nicholas' alleged relations with staffer. This is the way I see it. You've all seen the story. I don't have to go through it. It's been out since this morning. Everyone's been talking about it, right? St. Nicholas' office issued a brief response saying, the committee notes that the mere fact that, this is the committee on the House Ethics Committee, the committee notes that the mere fact that it is investigating these allegations and publicly disclosing its review does not itself indicate that any violation has occurred or reflect a judgment on behalf of the committee. Congressman St. Nicholas welcomes any due process on the matter. And that's good. It's a process. And so this is, how does this become the card? Who against who? It's not John Paul Manuel versus Mike St. Nicholas. It's not. It's Democratic Party style versus Republican Party style. Truly, truly, truly. Consider this. Note the sense of purpose. The Democrats in the House who are intolerant of the behavior, or the intolerant of the type of behavior that Mike St. Nicholas has been accused of, the Democrats in the House are willing to lose a Democratic seat over an ethics violation. versus, it's not. It's the Republican Party elected leadership was similarly intolerant of President Clinton's ethical conduct literally while he was in his office. And they were willing to impeach him and remove President Clinton from the presidency for cause. Right? We all remember that. It wasn't that long ago, only about 25 years. So everyone who's, 35 and older remembers this. Who doesn't know the name Monica Lewinsky and what that stands for? See? Well, who stands for her?
Uh-oh!
Yep. And so, the Democrats in the House and Clinton were willing to allow the special prosecutor to investigate the president and to report out. So I'm just saying, it's about a Democratic Party style versus a Republican Party style. That's what jumps out to me, because as our delegate points out, it's a process, and we need to let the process run its course, because that's why we set these processes up, so that the investigation can take place, and nobody is judged to be guilty before the findings, some objective findings. And you only have objective findings if you have a process. Or you can just say everything's political. Everything is political, especially when politicians are running it. There can never, ever be an outcome that is not politically driven, simply because on the grounds that just look at the people who are running it. It cannot be right if so-and-so is running it because of his label. Because he walked in here with that particular poop on his shoe, as opposed to the other one who walked in without any poop on his shoe. Because of that one reason, it's called litmus test, right? Litmus test. If he's got a black eye, he must have been in a fight. If he's got a pink shirt on, he must be lighting the loafers. It's like one data point, and then the universe. That kind of logic is real common these days. And as far as I'm concerned, all these political leaders we elected in, and not the ones in the States, because we didn't elect them at all. None of them, not even the president. We have our preferences. But all of these leaders that we put into office, it's not their party. It's what they do with the power that we gave them, the power that they wield in our name. What are they doing? It's behavior. It isn't a halo that's been bestowed, or that we know that everyone from a particular background is exactly perfect. We know. There's original sin and there's immaculate conception. Okay, and it's we already know which party has the immaculate conception, which one has the original sin. Right? That's what passes for political discourse these days. It's so un-American that we can't actually discuss things without saying, without putting the label on and saying, oh, it can't be right, because look who's talking about it. Right, Tom?
Well, another illogical thinking that most people would think is that if a man never marries a woman, he must be gay.
No, but we know it if he marries a man. But if he doesn't get married at all, does it mean that he's afraid of commitment? or maybe he's just immature, or he doesn't want his family fortune to be squandered by the wife's family, or he suffered an accident early on, and he's embarrassed to reveal his personal You know, he doesn't trust people enough to let anyone close to him.
But let me tell you, the most honorable man in the world, I'm not talking about myself or
about Bill Clinton?
anybody that I know.
You're going to say Bill Clinton?
The most honorable man in the world is a man that never marries a woman as long as his mother is alive. Because that man will rather serve his mother that brought him to this earth and raised him up to be a man. She struggled to raise him up to be a man. So why should that man serve another woman who was a stranger to him, and he only met this woman from high school and fell in love with her? And why should he marry this woman and serve that woman when his mother is still alive? He should serve that woman until she dies, because that woman, what? What?
Tom, you know, there are porn movies made about this. I'm sorry, you can't be talking about that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, nothing is pure. I thought you were going to say about a man who never, that the most pure man is the one who never marries because he's married to the church, because he's taken his vows of celibacy and he is serving the community as a priest and faithfully serving his God and the community as a priest. But you didn't say that. You know, I was going, it's like, hey, where is he going with this? And you start going down this other lane. But, you know, that's what you get for having a liberal education. You know, I had a liberal education, so I bring in history and I bring in philosophy and I bring in, I allow other people their viewpoints, even if they're wrong. You know, you're not wrong, Tom. Not you.
Not to change the subject, but the reason why I called is that
please.
I want to clarify the issue of what Francis called the first. He is your first caller today.
Yes.
And he was trying to explain what happened between myself and Andrea. We had a big argument with Andrea. It's true. Okay, I agree on that part. And the whole issue was Senator Moylan is introducing a bill to get every staff member of every senator to be screened for drug testing, just like any other government employee. And Senator Lee is adamant she doesn't want that to happen because of the fact that she feels Senator Lee is saying that it is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, it's illegal search and seizure, it's a violation of the privacy.
That's what that is all about. Yeah, I was trying to get Francis to tell me what's the subject here.
And the reason why Andrea and I were arguing is that Andrea said she is backing up Bisco Lee because Senator Moylan should not be introducing that kind of bill because of the fact that a Supreme Court ruling has said, Andrea was saying, I read the Supreme Court ruling that's made that kind of idea unconstitutional because any employee should not be screened for pre-employment. And I was saying to Andrea, I don't believe the Supreme Court will make a ruling like that. Because if the Supreme Court has made that unconstitutional, why are they still exercising that? Because right now, we have people applying to be enumerators for this census taking, and right there on that document attached to that application form that you must be first drug tested, you must pass a drug screening test. So if that had been ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of the United States, why are they still exercising it? That was my whole argument with Andrea. I just don't believe the Supreme Court will make that kind of ruling.
Tom?
You know.
No, you're right. And how about the construction workers that are going to go work on the base in order to get the passes, right? The supervisor has to certify that it's a drug-free workplace.
Yeah.
You can't have construction workers walking around with nail guns, right underneath where the plane is coming in.
Exactly, yeah, but Andrea said
on drugs.
I read Supreme Court ruling. It says that is unconstitutional. You should not be screening people for as a condition of employment.
these are the moments when I really miss Bob, because Bob will pull out the Supreme Court ruling and read it for us.
Yeah.
I like doing legal research. You know, I used to do some legal research, but I don't have time to do it in time for the show.
Andrea was also saying that our own Attorney General here in Guam has made an opinion also that says that is unconstitutional. We should not have drug screening as a condition of employment.
Okay.
And that's why I was arguing. I was saying, okay, Andrea, if you say that the Attorney General of Guam said made that opinion, I will not believe it. I refuse to believe it, because an opinion is just an opinion. It's not law. It's not statute. And I cite that Supreme Court of the United States ruling, cite it to me, the number of the ruling and the date that the ruling was made. I would like to read it myself, because I refuse to believe that the Supreme Court of the United States would make that kind of ruling that says that it is unconstitutional to screen for drug tests prior to employment.
Now, Tom, you're one of those guys that uses his head. You know, it's a good thing to question when people are saying something, because you say, let me see the facts. Let me see, because that Supreme Court case might have been the way that the law was written was overly broad, or the way that the law was written in a particular state, right?
Yeah.
And the only reason the Supreme Court will bring up a case is if they see that maybe the Fourth Circuit ruled one way, and then the Fifth Circuit ruled a different way, and the First Circuit ruled another way, and there's like 5 or 6 different cases that are possible before it that are coming up through the courts, and they want to just have one ruling so that we don't have non-uniform laws. And so, especially when it comes to unreasonable search, you know, and self-incrimination and equal access to, you know, jobs and whatnot, right? So you don't have, you're not discriminating against people. Although you can discriminate against somebody who is breaking the law versus someone who is law-abiding as an applicant for a job, or if it's a responsible position like driving school children around in a bus every morning, then you may want to have drug testing, and it may include alcohol. It may include random alcohol checks, just to make sure that as long as you have a safety purpose, but it may not be that that the purpose is to exclude drug users from employment, because it might be that maybe they were historical drug users, but they're not drug users once they get the job.
And I was also telling Andrea that it is weird that you admitted that we have so much drug problems here in Guam, and you want to wipe out the drug problems here in Guam, but yet you do not want drug testing prior to employment in our government. And the way I view things is that everybody that works in the government of Guam should be drug-free. Okay, prior to employment, we should test them to see if they're drug-free or they had been using drugs before, and let's not hire this person because there's a potential that once we hire this person, he might go back to start using drugs again while we have him under our employment. And that was my fear of it, you know, is that I want drug testing prior to employment, right? Because I want to know what is the background of this person that we are supposed to hire.
Yes.
You know?
That's right. Yeah. And there are some jobs that you really need to have tested. There are some jobs where, you know, what you want is somebody who's very creative, you know, and that creativity may be enhanced by the use of mind-altering substances. So it might be a qualification for a job. But the legislature is not necessarily one of those. If the legislature is going to propose and pass policies on drug-free workplace, then it should be willing to enforce it or implement drug-free testing, right? But if the legislature doesn't put up like real money to afford the testing, then you know that all they did was want the headlines.
That's what I was trying to stress to Andrea and Biscoli, is that if a person really wants to work for the government, then you better be willing to be drug tested, and you better pass the drug test. If you do not want to be drug tested, then fine, don't apply. That's the way I view things. But they're arguing with me that that is not right. That's not the way I should think.
Well,
But
you know,
that's the way I think.
I'm going to say something about Andrea. She has been using her position at Talk Radio to promote to advocate for the change of the laws, to make them more liberal. I mean, to loosen them up. Okay, not more liberal, but to loosen the definition of drugs and to decriminalize certain drugs. And that is her right, and I respect that very much. But for her to now want to reduce or to denut testing, sorry, going too far. You know, because there is a reason why, you know, just because there isn't a standard, you know, for marijuana intoxication doesn't mean that there isn't a standard for behavior.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Tom, for calling in today. Have a good weekend.
You too. Have a good weekend.
5:30, time for our seventh inning stretch, and then we have a couple of callers stacked up here, and we'll get to them right after these messages.
I'm a working mom and could really use more hours in my day. Thankfully, my non-electric Kinetico water treatment system has simplified my life. It's easier to clean my home with Kinetico conditioned water. No more scrubbing tubs or wiping water spots. Cleaners work better and last longer. And all the Kinetico drinking water we want is right here. No more lugging home bottled water. All this, and I'm saving money too, thanks to Kinetico.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your fix every day with the Points NFL Pick'em contest. Get the latest updates as we check out the past week's performance and break down the upcoming action. Get your game on by calling the hotline at 888-TALK or sound off on Facebook Live at thepoint.gu. League members get a chance to win some awesome weekly prizes with a shot for your choice of a new GTA phone. The NFL Pick'em contest is brought to you by Current Guam with special thanks to GTA. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mescla. Try their featured special for October. Beef shank and tendon slowly simmered in a rich Taiwanese-style soy-based broth. Served over noodles with bok choy and cilantro. Available in Agana and in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Especially if you're a Nats fan. But before we go back to the phones, I just want to mention here that Eddie Cruz has joined us on Facebook Live, and he says base access requires an FBI background check. Yeah, that's a good thing. Now, I don't know about whether it includes drug testing, but I do know that the contractors are required to have drug-free workplace certifications. So they're supposed to know if their employees are under the influence of any kind of mind or behavior altering substance, and they're responsible for it for safety purposes. And that's Gov Guam could learn something about the proper application of standards from that. I also wanted to before I go to Mark on line 1, and maybe this is what he wants to talk about. You know the story about the Agana pool closed again during to accidental fecal release? Yes, this has been the whole day we're talking about this, right? So here in the card, how would I frame this? I think that that they're using a word here to replace another word. So I'm going to say that this is accidental versus inadvertent. It means that there's no blame. No blame, no foul, although we're still talking about the same result. Somebody fecal released into the water.
Uh-oh.
Or they simply didn't. They simply didn't see what they needed to do to drive down the fecal coliform level that's discernible in the water before they cranked it up and said, "Hey, we're good now." Because we were talking about this about 6 or 8 months ago, right? The Department of Public Health and Social Services has implemented, with the assistance of the legislature, the regulations on pools. So all of the condos and hotels all over the island, everyone who's got a public pool is required to follow the new regulations on a pool that's open to the public, on how you're going to proceed to address the cleanliness of that water. It's a standard that's set and being enforced. And who should be the first ones to be adhering to this? Would be the Department of Parks and Recreation itself and its contractor, if any, should be competent to comply with the applicable regulations and not say, "Oh, hey, we're the government, so we're exempt from this," because they're not, because there's already a standard. So accidental versus inadvertent. It just means, okay, we're not going to point a finger at anyone. Even though it's within the 60 days, we're not going to give anyone a reprimand or a letter in their file for having botched this job task. Big time publicly, public impact. That's what the whole story is about. Oh, let's not hold so-and-so responsible. Mark, thank you very much for hanging on till I got that off my chest.
How you doing?
I'm doing my best.
Yeah, man, you got a pretty good table there full of all kinds of stuff.
Hey, I took one day off. It's double. The table's breaking under the weight. There's no way for me to dig all the way through this in 2 hours. But I'm having fun. I hope you are too.
Hey, that's good. Couple of things.
Yeah.
The ethics complaint that's been filed,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if he did it or not, is basically worthless. Because you have politicians investigating an ethics complaint on a politician. So you know how far that's going to go.
Well, how far will it go?
It probably won't go anywhere except for slap the hand, bad boy.
Oh, not necessarily.
No, I've seen quite a few of them. I think the last one that actually bear fruit was Matt Richter.
Sure, but...
Other than that, everything else has gone out the window.
Well, is it because of the party? Same party, or what would happen if it was the opposite party?
No, it's basically politicians. Policing politicians is a ridiculous idea.
But there is, let me give you an example, okay? I went to Congress during the orientation before the first swearing in of one of our congressmen, Guam congressmen. I was there. And one of the tasks that I was given was when they passed out the new ethics book, manual, it was over 560 pages long. It was a brick of paper. And he just took it and shoved it across the table to me and said, "Here, read that." And I did, because the new majority in the House of Representatives rewrote the ethics manual to tighten up procedures so that they would say, here are the standards, and we're not going to tolerate behavior which goes beyond this, because it's embarrassing to us for any member of this body to behave like this. And so it isn't a law, but Congress sets the standards for the behavior of its own members, and it is the final arbiter on who it will admit. A state...
Yeah, well...
And so
the reason why I said that is because, okay, when we elect whoever we elect, it can be Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, or whoever.
Right.
They're supposed to be ethically responsible.
Well, supposed to, yes.
Now, just for the U.S. side, there are countless issues where people that were filing sexual discrimination, all that happy-go-lucky stuff, that were paid off by an account established in Congress for just that.
Oh, yes. Gotcha.
Okay?
Mhm.
So the way I'm looking at it, I listened to a conversation with Underwood this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and he said the difference between what you can and cannot do is you can make boom boom with your campaign staff, no issues. But you cannot make boom boom with the congressional staff. That is issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you start off as a campaign staff and then fold into a congressional staff, where are you going to go?
Boom, boom.
So
sometimes the boom, boom gets turned back on you.
Ethics, none of this would have came out because he is foregoing the sanctity of marriage and deciding to take his make his extracurricular activities. Decides that's more important to him than his job or his ethics. Put it that way. You know?
But we haven't. It hasn't been proven yet. It has been. The allegations have been made. The ethics committee's looking into it, and now you don't think that they will jeopardize having a Democrat seat in the House of Representatives?
No, because what happens if he does get censured and he does get removed? What's going to happen? Comes back to the island. Who's going to replace him? The Democrats. So it's going to be a Democratic person unless they have a special election.
I think there has to be a special election because there's so much of the. Well, maybe not because there's only a year. It's in the law.
Yeah.
It says
so they'll say, okay, fine, this person's going to go over there and play acting.
Yeah, it'll be an appointee. It could be that, or that's right. 'Cause it's too late to have a special election.
Yeah.
But he's not found guilty yet of this.
No, but like I said, even the thought of that being out there is embarrassing, regardless if it's true or not. Just the thought of that happening is embarrassing. And back in the day, before this politically correct crap started taking off and all this liberal thinking, back in the day, a man's word is his bond. Now, the man can't keep his word to his wife and decides to go boom boom somewhere else. That man his word is trash.
Yep.
But now you can keep a harem on the outside, so long as nobody knows about it, you're okay.
Or some people would actually count that as a mark of virility and power and knowing how to use power.
And then taking it over to Tom's point about the most noble man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to disagree with him wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Because if you're going to wait till your mom dies before you get married, you're going to have some psychological issues.
Yeah.
You're going to need to go see a shrink.
Your mother should be the one telling you, go get married, boy. Give me some grandkids.
And the key thing about that is a noble man is one who takes care of his mother. And also, should he decide to get married, take care of his wife.
And mother.
But you have to differentiate the two.
Well,
you got to make sure Mama has a higher priority than the girlfriend or the wife, because Mama born you, the other one's just making you happy.
Yeah, if I can see if I can put all of this in sort of a package to wrap up in a bow, right? Ready for the bow, and that is that politicians are elevated by us according to whether their standards or their look, their speech, their intentions, their connections, however we judge them, right, is how they succeed in their careers. And for something like this to be attached to him, if he cannot have it set aside completely so that he does not have this as a continuing stain. If he cannot, or if for some reason the ethics committee process is not conclusive, well, it's still left up. No matter what, it's still left up to us to examine him before the next election.
Constituents here.
Mm-hmm.
It's for us to determine whether we're going to trust a person who's had an accusation.
Yes, and also whether it rises to the level of importance versus the next guy who's trying to get the job. Because maybe the opponent may have done something worse already, and he's coming in saying, hey, I already went to confession, so I'm good. But this guy, he keeps fighting and saying he didn't do it. You know what I mean? So, but it's up to us, and it's up to each and every one of us.
So, we reap what we sow, which means if we elect an idiot, we get an idiot. If we elect a very honorable person, we get an honorable person.
And
if we elect someone that likes to keep getting lost, we're messed up.
That's right. And if we elect somebody who is unable to stay on course, then we just call a spade a spade.
Yeah. Hey, on the last point,
mm-hmm.
I believe what was struck down by the federal courts or the Supreme Court is not the drug testing. What was struck down was the random testing.
You know, I
believe that's it. I may be wrong, but I believe that's it, because if the Supreme Court or Superior Court, whoever said that drug testing is a violation of the federal or the Constitution, they are still drug testing military. They are still drug testing federal. They're just not doing a random.
Yeah, when the Supreme Court considers an issue, you know, whether you like who's on the court or not, when they consider an issue, you need to carefully look at the ruling to see exactly what they're saying, and then see how our own laws conform with that interpretation. And then that's what the legislature sits. That's why they don't ever adjourn, right? They just stay in session continually for 2 years, because they got to be ready to make these changes.
Yeah, I do agree with Tom that any responsible employer, regardless if they're local or GovGuam or private, any responsible employer would do something like that to ensure whoever's coming in, because you're in hiring, unless you personally know who you're hiring off the bat, you know their history,
mm-hmm.
You're basically taking a chance on what they wrote down, be it correct or incorrect. It's blind faith.
Yeah, but you know, this is an at will.
The person decide, okay, fine, I'm going to come in, no problem. I'm just not going to tell him about the issues I had a couple of years ago, and then he goes back to that thing while working at a company that then has an accident that costs the company, hundreds of thousands of dollars because of a law that says you cannot drug test an employee. Then they should put a rider on that bill that states the legislature will be responsible for any company loss due to the adherence of that law.
Well, you know, this is you're getting into some areas where it may be a disincentive for a business to test, because if they know that an employee has been taking drugs, then it may be, and then they keep them on the job, then it may be that their insurance rates will go up really high, or they won't be covered, because in the riders it says if you know that you have an employee who's got a drug problem and you still put him out there to do work, even if it's just like go deliver, Yeah.
So if they put a rider on that bill that they want to pass,
mm-hmm.
that states that the legislature will be responsible for any financial losses from the company due to complying with that law, that law that they want to pass, I'm pretty sure everyone will sign on it. They'll sign on to it.
Well, this is the whole reason this thing came up is because Senator Moylan is trying to get drug testing on staff of the legislature. He has a very small staff, but he sees the Democrats have really big staff. Huh?
Yeah, but here's the question now.
Mm-hmm.
Are staffers and legislature part of GovGuam?
Yes, but under a branch.
Part of GovGuam's regulation is to be drug tested.
That's on the executive branch. The way they
It
wrote
don't
the
matter,
law.
executive
No,
branch.
it
It's
does.
Gov Guam.
You take a look at the law. It's the executive branch. It's not.
Okay, so we can. So depending on who we get elected, the next governor, we can probably plant what do you call that? A plantation in the backyard for us.
Well, the thing is that the legislature makes its own rules because each of those members is politically responsible every 2 years to you and me, the voters. And if they choose wrong, if they put druggies on their staff, they put ex-felons on their staff. If they take people who don't do anything and they put them on their staff, even though they're beautiful people and they're wonderful, but they just sit there every day like a slug and gather paycheck. Whatever the deal, we judge them on their output, because it doesn't matter. Unless they're sending people out there, to be misbehaving on government time in the public space. But that's a law enforcement matter,
Yeah.
But politically, that's the accountability.
Say that. For the entire time that I've been employed, that's federal, military, local, and private, I've always had to take a drug test.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that, going into the company, knowing that all the other, my co-employees, in my work,
Mm-hmm.
the people that I work with had done the same, gives me a better relief that I'm working with a bunch of people that in the doctor's eye or in the employment eyes are clean.
Yeah, you can rely on your coworker.
Somebody that says, "Hey, happy-go-lucky, we get who we get."
Well,
I'd have to scratch my head and go, "I wonder if it's worth working in this company if that's the outcome."
But that's why in the legislature it doesn't matter, because we're going to hold the employer responsible. It's not the legislature.
Don't worry, at
it's
the rate we're going, you're going to be able to smoke grass, but you're not supposed to eat meat. You're supposed to drive electric cars, and basically just sit in the corner and don't do nothing, because everything that you do is going to cause the world to go kaboom in 10 years.
And the seas are going to rise, and then the Micronesians have to move here.
Yeah, the seas are going to rise, like we're going to notice it out here in the middle of the.
Oh, we already have. That's why they keep. It's already wiping out the water supplies on the small outer islands of Micronesia. It's already there. But thank you very much, Mark, for your call. It's 5:51. It's time to take a break because it's the last break of the show. So, Real Joe, take it away.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
Join Nissan Guam on November 3rd as we try to break the Guinness World Record of 250 Nissan vehicles in a motorcade. Register now for only $10 with proceeds going to select charities and get a free World Record Driver t-shirt. Plus, be entered into our raffle giveaway for a chance to win a $1,000 travel voucher from United Airlines and more. Registration is open to the first 370 people and closes November 1st. So hurry. Register online at NissanGuam.com or visit our showroom today. No purchase necessary to enter. Raffle conditions apply. See Nissan Guam for details.
Talk Tells is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Well, I'm looking at the lineup I have here. I've got two horses in the stable, and I know I can't make them both run at the same time. And that's Francis and Jack. So, but Francis has been holding on the longest time. So let's see if I can get to what's on Francis's mind at this hour. 5:53. Francis.
I wanted to apologize for Tom. You know, my mind was really concentrated on official misconduct and abuse of their authority, but he's right. I think anybody that runs for office, especially a high position, senators, whatever, should be, in some cases, be ordered to go through even a psychological evaluation and drug testing.
Now, let me ask you. Let me ask you though. That means that, Francis, you don't want that. You don't think that we, the people, have a right to elect somebody who is completely. Remember Bill the cat that looked like he got run over by a car, and he had like one eye popping out, right? Okay. So why can't we elect Bill the cat? Because that's our choice, even though he has a history of drug use, or he's been a tomcat all his life, and why should we not be allowed? Because we're going to turn it over to a psychologist to determine his fitness to raise his hand to decide that we should drive on the right side of the road instead of the left.
Well, if an individual was seeking a seat in an official capacity, what I'm trying to say is, if you see somebody with a headlights bush cutting at 3 o'clock in the morning, wouldn't that be kind of reasons to suspect, and maybe implement?
Yeah, but the thing is that you use the face. There's got to be a face guard, right, for when you're bush cutting. Mm-hmm. And then you got the light coming at you. If you take the picture of the person, right, or you're looking at a person, you can't get a real good look at the face because the headlight is in your eyes. And if you take a picture, you can Photoshop that thing. So I don't want to have somebody, a cop tomorrow morning. I'm going to see on Facebook a picture of me bush cutting at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very unnatural,
No, but you're right. But there are people who are, drug addled, because of meth, and they do things at all hours of the day and night that you wouldn't think are the right way to do things. But that's why
I don't think those senators should be exempted from going through drug testing, at least. I don't know about the random, but the drug testing primarily in the beginning. We should know exactly if this man running for office is physically and mentally capable, of conducting himself and carrying out people's, being obligated and responsible for the people.
Am
I wrong, man, or what?
I don't think you're wrong, but the thing is that the American democracy has not put that kind of a constraint on the people's right to choose their leaders.
Who's the one that's saying that senators should not be drug tested? Which is the senator?
I don't know, but let me just take a look at this, okay? How many constraints do you think this particular group of senators and this particular governor should they put, like, how many conditions should they put in front of the people's right to choose their successors?
Well, you got me there, Darryl.
No, you see what I mean? This is a problem, because these guys could say, okay, let's make this really high bar so that the only people who can fit through are the ones who have got the right key, and we'll make it so that it's an interpretation, because we know what doctors will disqualify that guy and which processes that guy couldn't fit through, and they see the whole next crew coming up behind them, say, okay, we're going to be able to disqualify all of them and keep these jobs for ourselves. So we just pass a law saying you're not able to run if you don't pass this qualification. And in the Constitution it says you have to be of a minimum age, right?
Right. Darryl, I'm going to cut it short. I think you got somebody else waiting, right?
He dropped off, but I only have a minute to go. So, but that's why I don't like it. I think the people are the ones to decide who they want in, and then if they don't act straight and get the business done, it doesn't matter whether they are taking drugs. It matters whether they're writing and passing laws that are to the benefit of the community. That is the measure. It is not whether they look good in a white shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is their halo really sharp and bright?
I might lose a few hours of sleep, just paying attention to this and see where he goes or where they go with this. But
keep an eye on it. Let's see what they're doing, because they're wasting time. There's other things to be dealing with, other things that they should be dealing with at the legislature instead of contemplating their navel.
All right, brother.
But thank you
for taking me back.
Have a good weekend, Francis.
You too, Darryl.
Thank you. And that'll have to be the last call for the day. It's 5:59, time for me to go. And it's been fun. I'll be back on Monday at 4 o'clock. I'm Darryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back around Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving. Have a good weekend. Ray Gibson will be back on Monday morning at 6. And I thank you very much for staying tuned to The Point.